DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves all of us to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together in one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, a daily masterclass. This show that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic is how to use your niceness. Yes, how to be nice and actually use it in an offensive way. I don't mean offensive as in offending people, but offensive as in you going and making things happen through your niceness and achieving things that you want to achieve through helping other people achieve things they want to achieve. You're not going to, I mean, that should already be understood, but I got to make sure I lay it out. I mean, if you're being nice, that means you're doing something good through yourself, and hopefully other people they get good vibes at least from it, even if they don't gain anything from it, and they can gain good vibes. That's a gain, right? Well, I told you in masterclass number 1565 that you need to be important now and be nice later. That does not mean being nice doesn't matter. It doesn't mean I'm saying be a jerk. It doesn't mean that you should never do things that are nice. It doesn't mean that there is never a time nor strategy for using your niceness. That's what we're going to talk about here today. There is a strategy for using your niceness. There is a way to use it, again, proactively rather than saying offensively, but proactively so that you can make that niceness work for you. That is the topic here today. And how this came about was I was on the phone actually with American Airlines. And I was trying to get an upgrade on a flight that I was set to take. I was set to take the flight the next day. And I was, you know how when you have the app or whatever for whatever airline that you fly on, I always get my boarding pass on the phone now. I don't do the paper boarding passes. And I think any of us who's kind of in this millennium is using the digital boarding pass on your phone. So I had checked into a flight, and when I checked in, there was an option, hey, you can upgrade your flight to get a first class seat for this amount of money. And I said, that's actually a pretty good deal. But I didn't take the deal. I had actually hesitated to take the deal. So that's something that I should have known listening to my own show. I should not have hesitated to take that deal. So now I tried to go back. I completed the check-in for the flight. Now I tried to go back and do the upgrade, but the upgrade was no longer available. So then I had to call the airline, and I'm talking to the airline person, and they're like, well, yeah, we can upgrade you, but then the price that they quoted me was like 3 times higher than the price that had been in the app. And I'm like, damn, first of all, I thought I lost the opportunity. Maybe somebody else had taken the upgrade and I didn't take it. And I was like, damn, maybe I missed my opportunity. I should have did it because I was about to get on a cross-country flight. Then, as I'm talking to the person, they tell me that we do have it, but the price was 3 times higher. I said, no, the price in the app was lower. I didn't want that price. And they said, well, there's nothing I can do. I could try to get you on the phone with a supervisor if that would work for you. I said, yeah, put me on the phone with a supervisor. And I was still being nice to this person, but they couldn't do anything. We had reached the limits of their capabilities. So I said, put me on the phone with a supervisor. They put me on the line with the supervisor, and I'm talking to her, and she is looking at the situation, and she's saying, well, she offered a different solution. She said, how about, because what happened was after this woman, the first woman, the employee, not entry level, but the first line of defense employee, she was offering me to do the upgrade, and she was telling me the price, and I said, no, the price is not the price that I want. That had basically uncheck-ined me. So it basically took the check-in to my seat and it erased it, so I wasn't checked in anymore. And she was like, oh, well, then when I got online with the supervisor, she was saying, okay, well, you're not checked in anymore. No, let me back up. All right. So when I'm talking to the first person, when I was no longer checked in, I told her, well, look, I'll try at the counter. She was like, when you get to the airport, go to the counter and ask the people working there if you can get the first class upgrade. Maybe they'll have it at the price. But the only price I have available, this is the woman talking to me, the first woman, is this price that's triple the price that it was supposed to be. And I said, all right, fine. But then I'm looking at my phone and my boarding pass, and I was no longer checked in at all, and my seat wasn't there anymore because I had paid for an exit row seat. The worst seat I'm gonna get on the flight is an exit row seat. So I'm tall, I got long legs, I don't sit in the regular type of seats. And she was like, oh, well, the exit row seat is not there anymore. And I'd already paid for the exit row seat. right, the exit row seat was like 70, 80 bucks. So then I'm like, all right, well, if I check in again, it's asking me for the seat that I want, and I'm like, I already paid for this seat. So now if I choose it again, it's gonna charge me again. And she was like, well, it would refund you if you did it that way. And I'm like, or she was saying you could also get to the counter and ask for that seat. And I'm like, no, well, what if somebody buys it in the time that I'm talking to you on the phone between now and the time I get to the airport? Now that seat will no longer be available. Now I'm gonna be sitting in a regular seat in the economy section of a plane on a cross-country flight. There is no way I'm doing that. We need to find a solution to this. And again, I'm being very nice and having this conversation with her. She's like, well, there's nothing else that I could do about it. I could maybe put you on the phone with the supervisor. Let's see what that could do. And I said, great. She put me on the phone with the supervisor, and I'm talking to the supervisor. We're going over the situation again, going back and forth over everything that had occurred. And I said to her, well, you know, when I was first checking in for the flight, that option for the first class upgrade was available, but obviously is not available any other way. She couldn't pull it up either. The supervisor couldn't pull it up either at the price and the offer that I wanted. So she said, all right, how about what we do is we'll uncheck-in you. So we'll take your check-in and cancel the check-in. You still got your flight ticket, but we'll cancel the check-in. And how about you try to check in again on your phone while we're on the phone talking? I'm talking to her on the, I think I was on my smartphone on the speaker, but I'm using the app at the same time that I'm talking to her. And I said, hey, all right, I'll do that. I'll check in again and let's see if the option is there. And then I'll try to buy it right there on my phone app and we'll see if it works. So then we go through the whole thing again. I check into the flight again. My exit row seat, I had already purchased that seat again for 70, 80 bucks just in case. And then when I did the check-in, the first class upgrade was available again at the lower price, the price that I originally hesitated to get. So I caused this whole problem. So it wasn't their fault. I caused this by hesitating. But I was able to rectify the problem. I was able to purchase the first class upgrade. Then, you know, as we're going through it, she's like, I'll stay on the phone with you just to make sure it goes through, just to make sure you see that you have the seat on your boarding pass that is correct, that it is marked in the section it's supposed to be in. And I look on my computer, this is supervisor talking, I look on my computer and make sure it shows the same thing that says on your app. So make sure you're all squared away and then we'll be good. And she stayed on the phone with me. You know, I paid for the first class upgrade. I saw it on my boarding pass. She saw it reflected on her computer and everything was good and it was done. So when I got off the phone with the woman, a friend of mine's in the room and he heard this whole conversation. It was, and he said, look, sometimes in life, if you're just nice to people and you're persistent and polite, you can pretty much get anything you want in dealing with other people. And I said, you know what, you're absolutely right. And when he made that comment after I got off the phone with the American Airlines people, I said, you know what, I'm doing a masterclass on this exact topic. So that's what we're talking about here today. And before I even get into our points, let me tell you another story that also happened in Las Vegas that gives you kind of the inverse of this. So I'm standing in line with a couple of friends of mine who were going to this place called Fat Tuesdays. And most of you are probably familiar with what Fat Tuesdays is. They're a place that sells these like exotic, fruity, colorful, alcoholic drinks. And these big long plastic flutes and glasses that all look all different and make it look really big, but it's not really that much liquor in it. But anyway, they sell these. It's a very popular place, especially in Las Vegas. So it was a long line of people waiting in line to buy drinks from Fat Tuesdays on the strip in Las Vegas. So I'm standing in line with a couple of my friends here who are ordering drinks. I wasn't getting anything to drink, but I'm standing in line with them. And there's a bunch of people in line behind us. And they were standing in line for a long time. So I dipped into a casino, walked around the casino for a little bit, messed around on my phone a little bit in the air conditioning. I didn't stand in line the entire time, but when they got close to the front, I'm standing in line with them, we're just talking, and there's this guy, random guy who comes and stands right behind me. Now, I'm technically not in line. I'm not buying anything. I'm standing kind of outside of the line, but next to my friends. So this guy walks up and he sees me, so he starts standing behind me. But I'm not at the end of the line. I'm at near the front of the line. There's 30, 40 people in line. And there's maybe 5 people in front of us, but it's 30 people behind us. And I guess this guy didn't realize that this is not the end of the line. So I noticed him standing there, and other people in line notice him standing there, but we don't say nothing to him. We just ignore him, and we keep in our conversation. But I noticed that this guy who got behind me, he looks like he's a little bit tipsy. Now, I mean, he's not driving, so technically it's not illegal to be tipsy walking around in public. but he wasn't like drunk. He wasn't stumbling or anything like that. But he looked a little bit, he was a little bit under the influence, right? So he's standing there, and this is hot as shit. So whatever. Now the guys who were really behind us in line was a couple of Latin guys, these light-skinned Latin guys, and they noticed the same thing that I had noticed, that this dude had stood behind me as if he was at the end of the line when he really wasn't. Now I'm noticing him. These guys who are really behind us, they notice him. They're not saying anything, but they see him. I'm not saying anything, but we see him. And this guy, the inebriated guy, he's the only one who is oblivious to the fact that he's in the wrong spot in this whole line. Now, after I turn around and look at him a couple of times, and he's like so dazed and confused that he doesn't even notice me staring at him, he's still not saying anything. So as we start to move up closer, I finally say to the guy, hey, and I finally get his attention. He finally like wakes up out of his standing stupor, and I say, yo, this is not the end of the line. And he was like, what? I said, where you're standing right now, this is not the end of the line. All of these people here, and I motioned towards all the people behind us who are really behind us. I said, all of them are in line too. The end of the line is all the way back there. And then he looked at all those people and he was like, oh, that's the line? And I said, yeah, that's the line. And I'm like chuckling while I'm talking to him, and my friends are looking at him chuckling as well. He's like, oh, all right. And then he looks at the line, the length of the real line, and he looks at where the front is, and then he turns and he goes the other way. He didn't even stand in line because he's like, damn, fuck it, I'm not even standing in line. I don't need alcohol that bad. So he goes and walks away. So after he walks away, I look at the guys who are actually behind us, these Latin guys, and I say to them like, yeah, dude, thought he was just gonna jump in front of y'all, huh? And we're all chuckling about it. And the Latin guy behind us, this is what he says. He says, yeah, man, I saw that too. And he said, this is what he says. He says, that's why I started standing a little bit closer to the guy. Because this is how he describes it. He's like, yeah, I start getting closer and closer to him. I'm like, yeah, what's up, bro? What you gonna do? He's like, yeah, what's up, bro? Like, he was saying it in such a way that I understood what he was saying. Like, coming from where I assume he comes from, that's kind of the way that people handle things. Like when they notice that someone's kind of doing something that they ain't supposed to be doing, instead of doing what I did, which is say, hey, excuse me, sir, this is not the end of the line. The end of the line is back there, which easily dissolved the situation. I diffused the situation before it became a situation. This dude who was actually getting jumped in the line, instead of just saying to the guy like, yo, that's not the end of the line, you in the wrong spot, the end is back there. He could have just said that, but he didn't do that. He was just going to stand closer and closer to that guy and let it get to the point where we're just going to see who can step in front of who, and then it would have been bumping and maybe become a confrontation and all of that. That's the way that he was going to handle it, because maybe he didn't see another way, maybe he didn't know another way, maybe he did know another way, but he just didn't want to use it. That's what often I see people doing this when there's a potential conflict on the horizon. Instead of just handling it in a gentleman friendly way, which is what I did, this guy was going to handle it in a completely different way. But I am not condemning him for looking to handle it in that way, because there have been times, many times in my life, when I have handled things in a similar way to the way this Latin guy was proposing to handle that situation had nobody said anything. Had I not said anything, he was going to handle it that way, and he probably would have succeeded because the other guy was drunk anyway. But I'm telling you all of that background to tell you that today's topic is about how to use niceness strategically to advance yourself forward and help everybody save face and actually get the things that you want all at the same time. Point number one, topic once again, is how to use your niceness strategically. Number one, remember that you catch more flies with honey than you do with salt, as the saying goes. In other words, it is easier to get people to help you and to cooperate with you when they like you than when they hate you. And listen, you can get people to cooperate with you and do what they need to do for you, even if they do hate you, if you have the proper leverage over them, if you got the proper power over them, if you're able to use fear and intimidation in addition to that leverage. And even if they hate you, you can still get people to do what they are supposed to do in your favor and against their will or against their wants, even if they hate you. If you have the proper leverage, you can do that. However, it is much easier to get people to do things that you want them to do if they like you, if they're happy about it, if they want to help you, if they want to contribute to you for whatever reason. All right, there's an argument that can be made for getting people to do what you want through fear. But understand the energy of fear is not a healthy energy. Nobody wants to live with fear, whether as the giver of fear or the recipient of fear, for very long. All right, your lifespan will probably be a little bit shorter. It's like smoking cigarettes. You don't want that energy coursing through your veins at all times. And as soon as someone gets out from under the fear that you have been controlling them with, now you're gonna have a set of people out for revenge, or a set of people who will despise you forever, or a combination of both. Because once people realize that you've been controlling them with fear, or even if people already realize it, once they're able to get out from under that fear and they no longer are controlled by it, now they're gonna hate you because they know what you were doing. All right, I don't think you wanna be putting that kind of energy out into the universe. If we are all in sales, which we all are, then understand that you'll close a lot more of your sales when your prospects are pleasant and happy and laughing and joking than when they are fearful or angry or anxious or stressed. Would you agree? All the salespeople listening to this, which should be everybody, don't you get a lot more done when people are happy and laughing and joking and pleasant dealing with you than when they're anxious or fearful or stressed? I think so. If you have the opposite experience in life, that you get more done when people are anxious, fearful, and stressed out, I want to hear about it. Let me know. Send me an email, dre@dreallday.com. But if I'm right, that people do more for and with you when they're pleasant and happy and positive, then you can just nod your head. You don't have to email me about that. Actually, I would say that nearly all of your sales in life, all of the times in life when people agree with you, when people go along with you, when people do what you want them to do, nearly all of those transactions, and again, anything. This could be someone just moving out of your way in line. This could be somebody letting you jump in line because you have an emergency. This could be somebody letting you merge in traffic. This could just be somebody buying a product or service from you. Always happens when people are in a positive state, depending on what you're selling. Now, sometimes people buy things when they're in a negative state, depending on what it is you're buying. Again, depending on what they're buying and what you're selling. But most of your sales come when you get people into a positive state. And if you look at your life, and just look at your future. If you can't remember the last sale that you made, look at the future outcomes that you get in life. Usually is when someone is in a positive state. You catch more flies with honey than you do salt. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to use your niceness strategically. Point number 2, when you push people, they push back. In case you didn't know. When you put that energy out towards another person, they will send that energy back. And that Fat Tuesday's line, had I not said anything, these guys who are being jumped in line by the drunk guy who didn't notice that he was jumping in line, they would have ended up in a confrontation. And one of the guys who were not yet drunk, they didn't seem too drunk. The guys who were being jumped in line, they seemed pretty normal, or maybe they just hold their liquor better. They would have pushed that guy. I don't mean physically pushed. Maybe they would have physically pushed him, but they would have done something in a confrontational type of way. The way that he described what he was going to do, it was confrontational. And that inebriated guy would have either pushed back or he would have been intimidated into not pushing back. But that energy, it was unnecessary for that energy to be used if he had just done it a different way. Now, what if that had come to pass? Maybe there would have been a fist fight out there. Maybe somebody would have got jumped. Maybe the guy would have got his ass kicked. Maybe somebody would have got arrested. Who knows? But it would have been energy that was unnecessary to the situation if someone had just diffused it by just speaking, just using their words. I remember when I was at Penn State, I had a friend who was a female friend of mine. We were all out. I was out one night and I ran into her and she was like, all right, well, we about to go hang out at this guy's house. He was on the football team. I didn't know this guy who was on the football team, but he was inviting me along with a bunch of other people because we were cool with some people he was cool with. He was inviting everybody back to his apartment. And I remember we pulled up to his apartment. We were all in different cars. So I parked my car in a certain spot that was a few doors down from his apartment. And he walked up to me as I was getting out of my car and he offered his hand for a handshake. He was like, yo, what's up, man? What's your name? I introduced myself. He introduced himself. And he said, yo, could you please move your car to that spot over there? He pointed to a different parking spot that was out of whatever slot that I had parked in, because apparently the spot that I was parking in was somebody's assigned parking spot. And any of you who went to a college, at least a big college, you know that on apartments off campus, on campus, all that stuff, there's certain assigned parking spots, and on a crowded Friday or Saturday night, it can be hard to find parking. So I had parked apparently in somebody's spot where I should not have been, and he, though he didn't know me, he was taking responsibility for that because this car that I was parking was going to be going to his house, so he would be responsible for the fact that I was parking in that spot, and he wanted to protect that spot. So he came over, and again, the very friendly way, very polite way, very respectful way, just asked me to move my car. Now, I'm telling you that to ask you this. What if this same guy, football player, had approached me like a tough guy? What if he would have said, yo, move your fucking car? Or yo, don't park there. Yo, you can't be in that spot. Or yo, who are you parking in that spot? He could have done any of those things. He had the option to do it. I've seen it done. I've seen this done many times, and it doesn't usually turn out well. What if he had approached that way? What would I have done? Would I have said, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Football Player, let me move my car to a different spot? No, I wouldn't have said that. I would have been like, yo, who the fuck are you talking to? Or I would have said something right back to him, and it would have became a testosterone battle between two ego-driven men, and who knows what that situation would have turned into. Right? And I'm sure many of you have either been in a situation like that, or you have seen a situation like that. Generally speaking, ladies and gentlemen, 98% of the time, you can control how other people respond to you just by your approach and your energy and your intentions. Generally speaking, that's pretty much how it works. Now, there's this saying out there that people say, well, my energy towards you is based on your energy towards me. I don't like when people say that, because they're basically saying, all right, you control me based on the way that you approach. But generally speaking, when you're the one who is approaching, you're the one who is initiating the situation, you can control another person's response based on how you step to them. That is generally how it works. Now, don't allow another person to control you by how they step to you. Don't allow that, because if a person approaches you the wrong way, you may end up reacting to something that you could have diffused it had you just had a different energy yourself. So don't allow other people to control you that way, but understand that you can control them that way, if you understand what I'm saying. Y'all got that? Okay. Your energy and your intentions basically control how an interaction is going to go. I was in a Vegas hotel once, and I'm trying to remember what the story. I just have a note here that says, tell the story about the Vegas hotel. So as I look at my note, maybe it'll come to me what I'm talking about. Had I understand what I'm saying? Y'all got that? Okay. So while we're on the topic, I'll tell you something else that happened in Vegas, actually on this same trip. We are standing in line. I told the story on my Instagram. On Instagram, I did an IGTV video asking for people's opinion on this situation. We were standing in line at the hotel, and there's a long line just to get to the elevator shafts, even though there are so many elevators here, because it was just so many people. It was more people in Vegas in the summer of 2020 than you would expect, but there are a lot of people there. We're in line, and they're saying 4 people to an elevator. So there are groups, every group who's together, they're standing in line to get to the elevator. And there's me and 2 of my guys, and they're both taller than me. We're all black, we all got masks on, so you can't even see our full faces. We're having our own conversation to ourselves. There is a woman in front of us who's by herself. There's a petite white woman. She's probably in her maybe mid to late 40s, blonde hair, by herself. There's a group in front of her, maybe 4 people. They had their suitcases. It looked like they just got there. So an elevator comes, those 4 people get in their elevator. Now, obviously, this woman can calculate, she can count the same way that we can, that the next elevator that comes, she's just by herself, so whoever's behind her is probably going to get with her in that same elevator. And there's 3 of us. So that's 1, her, 2, 3, 4. 4 of us will be in the elevator together. She obviously noticed this. I noticed it as we're moving up in the line. And I think she was, for whatever reason, somewhat uncomfortable with that setup. So as those 4 people get into their elevator, that elevator quote unquote being full based on COVID rules, that woman runs up to their elevator and she says to them, hey, do you mind if I get in with you all? And they allow her to get in. So now it's 5 in that elevator. She gets in with them and she rides up with them to wherever she's going. Now we press the button because we're the next group to get in the elevator, and the 3 of us get in together. Nobody tries to get in with us. And we are laughing to ourselves. We're like, yeah, that white woman didn't want to get in the elevator with 3 black guys. And I posted this on Instagram and asked, did people think that's racist for the woman to avoid it? And there were some people who actually went out on a limb to say that was racist. I said it's not racist because we have no idea why the woman didn't get in the elevator. Maybe she had somewhere to be. Maybe she was late. Maybe she needed to go to the bathroom. Maybe she was uncomfortable being in an elevator with 3 men. Maybe it was because we were black. Maybe it's because we were men. Maybe it's because we were twice her size. We have no idea why she did it, so we cannot draw the conclusion to say that it had anything to do with race. Race happened to be correlated, but it is not the cause of it because we have no proof that that's actually what it was. Now, I'm bringing that story up to tell you this. Had I spoken to that woman before the elevator before we had even moved up in line, had I said to the woman in a joking type of way, I said, hey, you don't have nothing to worry about, where, I would have said, hey, maybe we'll be your bodyguards, so nobody will mess with you. She would have laughed, we would have laughed, the tension would have been diffused, and she probably would have rode the elevator with us. Had I done something like that, something to just break the tension that was obvious that she was probably feeling, and maybe some awkwardness and uncomfortableness that she was feeling, because the group in front of her was together. There was 4 people together. Behind her, there were 3 people together. And here she was, the smallest person out of everybody, all by herself. It probably felt very awkward to her, no matter who it was. It could have been 3 women. It could have been 4 white men. It could have been whoever. She still would have felt awkward because she was the only one that was by herself. Everybody else had at least one other person with them in this situation that we were in. I could have broke that tension. I didn't even do it because I was too into my conversation to even care about it. It didn't matter because nobody got hurt from it. Nobody died from it. Nobody went to jail from it. This is not a legal situation. But I'm sure it could have happened a different way had I broken the tension just by thinking of something or doing something nice to relieve whatever anxiety that it was apparent that she was feeling, which is why she avoided the situation altogether. But anyway, we'll never know. Maybe it'll happen again. Maybe we'll run into the same moment. Maybe she listens to the Work on Your Game Masterclass and she can speak up for herself. I'll interview her on the show if she reaches out. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to use your niceness to your positive benefit. Number 3, remember Masterclass number 13, 14, that you are a hustler playing the game. And when I say the game, I'm talking about all of life. Whatever it is you're doing, there's a game you're playing. There's a hustle that you need to hustle. Meaning, you may not like a person. You may not feel you need to be nice about something with another individual, but remember something, and you may be right. Remember something though. The goal in life is to get things done. The goal is not to prove that you don't need to be nice to somebody. The goal is not to prove that you can be a jerk if you want to. The goal is not to prove that you can be an asshole or a tough guy or you can talk ridiculously to another person and get away with it. Even though you may be able to, that's not the goal. All right, remember the goal is to get things done. So let me tell you a truth about life. Most people are nice. They want to be helpful, and they want to get along with other people. Now, are there some assholes out there in life? Absolutely, there are a lot of assholes in life, and you probably know some of them. But most people are usually not assholes. Most people have both the capability of being an asshole and the capability of being nice, the capability of being a jerk, and the capability of being friendly. Would you agree? Have everyone who's listening to me right now, are there times in life when you've been an asshole and a jerk and been mean when you didn't need to be? Yes, there are. Maybe you don't want to admit it, but you know it's true. Are there times when you've been nice when you didn't have to be nice? Times you've been friendly when you could have just been neutral? Times that you've gone out of your way to make someone feel comfortable when you could have made them feel uncomfortable? Of course there are. So we all have both of these sides to our personalities. But you have the choice that you can be the jerk when you want to. Somebody could approach you the wrong way and you could be a jerk right back to them. There's times when people approach you the nice way and you can be nice right back to them, right? Cesar Millan, who's a guy who he used to have a TV show at least called Caesar's Way. It was all about training or rehab. It was about training human beings. That's what he would say. He said, I train people, I rehabilitate dogs. He said the dogs don't need to be trained, it's the humans, because people would have these dogs that were, quote unquote, acting out or quote unquote misbehaving. And Caesar would always explain, listen, it's not the dog who's misbehaving and acting out. It's you, who is the human, who is misbehaving and acting out. It is your actions that are causing the dog to do whatever the dog is doing. The dog doesn't need to be trained. The dog doesn't need to go to rehab because the human has conditioned the dog to perform a certain way. And Caesar would show by him taking control of the dog, but look, the dog isn't the problem. All right, the problem is you. Because when the dog gets around me, the dog expert, he's not doing any of the bad things that he does when he's around you, the human owner who is causing this dog's bad behavior. And Caesar would show this right there on the show. Now, of course, it's TV, so of course they got to edit it and all that stuff. But I believed and I read a couple of Caesar's books, at least one of Caesar's books, that he actually knew what he was doing and he knew what he was talking about. It was the human's energy that was causing the dog to bark at everybody or not listen or not walk on the leash or be aggressive and attack other dogs and attack people and things like that. It's not the dog's behavior that needed to be retrained. It was the human around them that was causing that energy to come out of the dog. And Caesar would prove this by rehabilitating the way the human approached, which would change completely the way that the dog approached. It's the same thing with us human beings. You as an individual, listen to this. Every person that you deal with, treat them like they're like the dog. They're like your dog, all right, on a leash. All right, now don't call people dogs and don't put them on leashes. But other people are like dogs, and that the energy that you approach with, the energy you walk into a room with, the energy you have of anticipation when you deal with someone else, if you approach in a friendly way, if you approach nicely, if you approach in a way that you want to get along with them and create a win-win situation and you want everything to be positive, they will usually return that energy. Even if a person approaches you with an energy of being an asshole and a jerk and they want to be an asshole and a jerk, it's hard to remain being an asshole and a jerk to another person when they are not returning that energy back to you. You have nothing to push against. It's hard to keep punching if you're punching air. All right, you get tired of punching against air. All right, that's why when you see someone who wants to practice boxing, they got to hit something, right? You got to hit against something. You either hit another person or you hit a punching bag or you hit a speed bag, but you got to hit something. All right, shadow boxing is hard to keep boxing against air. All right, you can shadow box when you can envision another person, but it's only but so long you can do that. You need something to push back against. All right, you can't do push-ups with nothing to push, right? You can't lift weights with no weight. All right, you can't do a bench press with no weight on the bar. And eventually, you're going to get tired of pushing that bar because nothing to push back against. It's the same thing with human beings. If you don't give them anything to push back against, they will stop being jerks. They'll stop being assholes. Or if you just start the conversation, if you're the one who is initiating, because what the fourth principal tenet of the work on your game philosophy is personal initiative, right? So if you're the one initiating the conversation and you start the conversation with positive energy and a positive expectation, guess what you're going to get back from the other person? You're going to get positive energy back. You come in expecting to have a good, fruitful conversation between two people who are trying to achieve the same thing. That's exactly what you'll get. If you approach with confrontation, that's exactly what you'll get. This is just the way that things work in life. Do not be fooled into believing just because you were aggressive with a person once and you got away with it, that you can keep using that strategy over and over again and it will always work. One day you're going to run into someone who is just as aggressive as you and maybe better at it than you, and you're going to end up on the losing end of that situation when you didn't even have to take it there to begin with. And anyway, that energy is not the kind of energy you want to carry through life anyway, so you might as well not even take it there. All that being said, let's recap today's topic, which is how to use your niceness in a strategic way. I told you in masterclass number 1565 to be important now and be nice later, but there is a time and strategy to using your niceness. That's today's topic. I told you a few stories here that happened in Las Vegas with American Airlines trying to get my upgrade to first class, just being pleasant on the call. And a friend of mine said, sometimes you just got to be persistent and polite. You can get anything that you want in life. Conversely, the story of Fat Tuesdays, this guy could have just said, hey, excuse me, you're in the wrong spot in line. Instead, he was going to just walk up to the guy and just muscle him out of the spot and just say, hey, what's up, bro? What you want to do? And make it into a confrontation for no reason that he didn't need to. Luckily, I was there and diffuse the situation before it became one. Point number one, you catch more flies with honey than you do with salt. It's easier to get people to help and cooperate with you when they like you than when they hate you. All right, even if they're afraid of you, even if they have to listen to you, it's better off if they actually like you and want to do things for you than if you're forcing them to. Because if you force people to do things and they do it against their will and they hate you, all right, eventually they're going to get out from under the fear of you, and now you're going to have a bunch of enemies. Why do that? Point number two, when you push people, they will push back. I told you a story. I was at Penn State and this football player walked to me and said, hey, could you please move your car to a different spot? He didn't have to approach like that. He could have been a complete jerk and I would have been a jerk right back to him because of our male egos. He approached a certain way. I returned the exact same energy that he sent, and that's the way things worked out. Generally speaking, people, 98% of the time, you can control how other people respond to you just by your approach and your energy and your intentions. The same thing with when I was in a hotel waiting for the elevator, and there was a woman who avoided being on the elevator with us. She clearly avoided being on the elevator with us. We don't know why she did it. Maybe it's because we were black. Maybe it's because we were men. Maybe because she was by herself. Maybe she had to go to the bathroom. Maybe she was late for an appointment. We don't know why, but I could have said something It eased the tension, broke the ice, and she would have felt more comfortable, and she probably would have rode the elevator with us simply because I had broken the tension and got rid of the awkwardness that she was probably feeling because she was by herself and everybody else was in a group. Point number 3, remember that I told you in masterclass number 13, 14, you're a hustler playing the game. So even though you may hate someone, you don't like them, you feel like they're an asshole, and you don't need to be nice about a situation, remember that your goal in life is getting things done. The goal is not to prove that you can be a jerk. It is not to prove that you can be an asshole. It is not to prove that you don't have to be nice if you don't want to, even though those all may be true. Most people in life are nice, they want to be helpful, and they want to get along with other people. Are there some assholes out there? Yes, there are, but most people are not that, and usually not like that. Most of us have both capabilities, and the jerk comes out only when people approach you in a jerkish way, right? So if you stop approaching people like a jerk, you initiating, then they probably will never return that energy back to you, and everybody will live in this free, happy, and fun utopian society where everybody's nice to each other. It all starts with one person, you. Work on your game. Oh yeah, read my book, 55 Daily People Skills. That'll help you in getting better and dealing with people. That's part of the leadership bundle, which you can access at workonmygame.com/LB for the leadership bundle. That's 55 Daily People Skills, 25 conversation starters, and 25 reasons to quit worrying. 3 books in a package to your doorstep as soon as you want them. Workonmygame.com/LB leadership bundle. Work on your game. Dre all day.